Okay, councillors, staff, members of the gallery, welcome to this ordinary council meeting of Monday, 29th of June, 2026. Could I please invite Councillor Gadders to provide a civic affirmation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pardon me while we get some audio worked out. We, the councillors of Armidale Region, declare that we will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of our community and faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in us to the best of our skill and judgment.
Thanks, Councillor Gadders, and Councillor Endres to provide an acknowledgement of country.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. The Armidale Regional community pays tribute to their love of land, love of people and love of culture.
Thank you, Councillor Endres, and I'll call upon the General Manager to make a statement in regard to live streaming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings of the non-confidential parts of the meeting will be made available on the website. No other persons permitted to record the meeting unless specifically authorised by Council to do so. And could I ask that all mobile phones please be turned to silent? Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. General Manager. Councillors, there are no absences as we are all here, or apologies, which brings me to 9.4. Councillors, having reviewed the agenda, does anyone need to declare a conflict of interest? All right, we'll crack on. Thank you. Item 5.1 is confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 27th of May 2026. Can I please have a mover for that? Thanks, Councillor McMichael, and a seconder. Councillor Endres, thank you. Councillor McMichael, anything to say there? Councillor Endres? All right, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of adopting those minutes? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 6.1 is a mayoral minute, and it's one of those good news stories. And this is around the conferral of the keys to the city to Mr. Ron Vickers. So yesterday, Ron celebrated his 101st birthday. His life has been quite incredible. At the age of 17, he enlisted in the Royal Australian Navy shortly after the start of World War II. During this time, he witnessed significant historical events, including the bombing of Darwin and the surrender of Japan in Tokyo Bay in 1945. He assisted in establishing swimming clubs, supported amateur theatre, advocated for social justice. He worked closely with Indigenous communities and was an active peace advocate during the Vietnam War era. His professional and community achievements have spanned roles as a teacher, academic, playwright, theatre director, poet and author. Through the University of New England, he completed a Bachelor of Letters in 1963 and later a Master of Education with honours. In 2023, at the age of 98, he was awarded the University of New England Alumni Community Award and was recognised as the university's oldest alumnus. He has also been honoured by Armidale Regional Council as Senior Citizen of the Year. Recently, Mr. Vickers delivered the 2026 Anzac Day address and was the subject of a documentary highlighting the remarkable legacy of a man whose contribution to the community and life around it continues well into his second century. So the purpose of this mayoral minute is twofold, and that I recommend Council recognise the exceptional and lifelong contribution of Mr. Ron Vickers to the Armidale community and beyond, and the Council resolve to confer the keys to the city upon him. So, as the Chair, I move that minute. Is there any discussion? Councillor McMichael.
Oh, look, I was in the mall yesterday when Mr. Vickers was there, and lots of us sang happy birthday to him, and he was able to regale us, I suppose, and or tell us some of his story down there, and it was both fascinating and interesting to hear his story, and it was a great honour to have him down in the mall yesterday, celebrating his actual birthday then, and it's a great privilege to be able to say to second this motion or to support this motion.
Thanks, Councillor McMichael. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, look, I've known Ron for over 30 years, and he's become a very good friend of mine, and he was very brave back about 30 years ago to be one of the first person to install a solar system in this area. And you had to be brave in those days because nobody knew what they're doing. But this is a great thing, and yeah, really support it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Taylor. All right. Anyway, Councillor Imad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to wish Ron a happy birthday on a really fine inning, notching up a century. Pay respect for being a vet. That's a special career that he had, and it's an enormous contribution to Armidale and the country. So I congratulate him and wish him all the best, and may God bless him.
Yeah. Councillor Witters.
Yeah, must have known this was coming up because I spent half an hour talking with one of Ron's mates from the Wise Old Men. They get together in the mall, and he gave me a lot of info in regards to Ron's life that day. Just a question, the information provided in this mayoral minute, was that through your own doing, or did someone make a nomination towards you for this?
It was the nomination or the request came externally.
Okay. Fair enough. Just would have liked to have seen that before come in as a mayoral minute, that's all. But otherwise, well done to Ron. I think it's 101 in any sort of game, unless you're on the losing end of 101 flogging in some sports, but 101 years is a great innings. One of the things that Wise Old Men told me about was he actually started in the Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith as a judge. So I'll have to go back and re-watch that and have a bit of a look.
Excellent. I don't think Mr. Vickers would mind me saying this, Councillor Witters, but it 101 times probably of the essence. I hope Mr. Vickers doesn't mind that. All right, councillors, if there's nothing further, all those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 7.1 relates to ethical decision making. So this report is a standing item and is a guide to councillors in making ethical decisions. Council is being asked to note the report. We have details from page 7 of the agenda, and I call for a mover, please. Thanks, Councillor Gadders, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Let's put this to the vote as a standing item. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 7.2 is the Council Actions Report, which summarises the actions taken on resolutions from October 2024. Council is being asked to note the report. We have details on page 9 of the agenda and page 41 of the attachments. Can I please have a mover for a motion? There's a recommendation on the screen. Thanks, Councillor Redwood, and seconded Councillor Imad. Anything to say here, Councillor Redwood? Councillor Imad? All right, let's put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Councillors, probably what is considered the big one for this meeting, which is 8.1, the adoption of the final integrated planning and reporting document. So the item comes to us following a period of public consultation in relation to the 12-month operational plan and budget for the 27 financial year, the fees and charges for the coming financial year, the revenue policy, and the long-term financial plan 26 through to 2035. We have details from page 11 of the agenda and page 48 of the attachments. The recommendation is to adopt the documents, note the community submissions received during the exhibition period, endorse the responses, and note that any statutory fees and charges that have not yet been updated will be updated once notification is received. So there is a recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover? Thanks, Councillor Redwood, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Redwood, anything to say here?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. No, I think from, as you said, this is the big one. It's an important topic for us to move through our process each year, and a lot of, needless to say, a lot of work goes into this process. And transparently, it's also, as you also mentioned, displayed to the public for exhibition. So we do have
a number of submissions on this. But yeah, I think it's a good one to crack on with.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, I'd just like to congratulate the staff of ARC to put this together. It's a huge amount of work that it takes for them all, so well done, team.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Well, there's quite a few issues here, and I just wondered, I'm going to move a motion that we go into a committee of the whole to discuss them, if I can get a seconder.
Can I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Witters. So committee of the whole to discuss this in Globo?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, yeah, it's a committee of the whole, so we discuss it, and then because I have a couple of amendments that I'd like to get some feedback on first, if it's possible.
Sure. Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favour of moving into committee of the whole? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Oh, sorry, second was Councillor Witters. All right, well, committee of the whole, your light is on, Councillor Robinson.
Well, the main things that I'm concerned about are water charges. And I had a couple of amendments which I've circulated to councils, and I really wanted to discuss them because it's so. And there was a couple of questions first. One was in relation to the answers to my questions on notice, which was basically relating to the idea that there were some local water utilities of similar size to Armidale that had access charges in excess of $700,000, because the only ones that I know of, the New South Wales government basically classifies water utilities into 4 categories: very small, less than 100 and 1,500 connections, a little bit bigger, 1,500 to 4,000, medium, which is 4,000 to 10,000, and then the other ones is over 10,000, which is the one Armidale belongs to. And I would have considered that maybe since we're only 11,000 connections, we could possibly be comparable to the ones over 10,000 and maybe the ones between 4,000 and 10,000. So my question really is, how many of those have got access charges in excess of $700 a year?
I will defer to, okay, through me to the GM who can.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. I used this phrase, I think, a month or two ago with great respect, Councillor Robinson. Your questions come to us as rolling statements. They roll into a question and then there's a statement at the end of them, and they're incredibly hard to follow. We've asked you on a number of occasions if you could just simplify those questions and break them down for us, because we answer them to the best of our ability, and then you come back and you tell us, no, we've completely missed the point, and we haven't answered that. To this specific question, can't answer that without some research.
Yeah, no, the question was because this was a response of staff. It wasn't my question, it was a response to the staff to my question, which was basically, they said in response that there were some of comparable size. And I've spent, quite a lot of time looking at all the ones with high access charges, and none of them that I can see have anywhere near the number of connections to Armidale's. So that was just my comment, but if you can't answer that question, even though you initiated it, that's okay. We've just established one thing, and that's fair enough. And the reason I wanted to discuss this is because of public consultations elsewhere. And again, I mean, I would like to quite clearly say that the reason why the Central Coast and Sydney Water, why IPART made their determinations there and capped the access charges, if you read the reports, it has absolutely nothing to do with economies of scale. It was just basically that was what the public wanted. And although we only had maybe 9 or 10 submissions on water charges in our thing, in our consultation, that did appear to be, and remember that some of them, such as Sustainable Living Armidale submission, appear to be missing, that was what the overwhelming response was to those public consultations. So I do believe that, and the other question again is that it seems to me that with the average from the New South Wales government saying that our access charges our proposed access charges are way higher than what is the average for you, or even, there might only be 1%, 2%, 3% of comparable water utilities actually got anything higher than us. So I think we should be looking for what all the other water utilities do, rather than saying that what we're doing, which is way above everybody else, or where most of them, is best practice. Now, and the reason I say that is because we are in a cost of living crisis. A lot of our residents, our incomes are way lower on average. Our poor people, our low income families, have got much less lower incomes than, say, Sydney or Central Coast. And I'm struggling to understand why high access charges should be considered fair. And one example I thought of was, if you've got a block of 8 units in town, then you're going to use the same amount of pipes to service that block of 8 units as you would a large house and a garden on the outskirts of town. And yet, in our proposals, the small block of 8 units, which could be single person households, is going to pay $3,200 a year compared to $400 for the large house on the outskirts of town. And the other reason, and this is one thing that I'm really concerned about, is that we've got an insecure water supply. And what really matters when you've got an insecure water supply and an upcoming drought is finding the funds to create a secure supply to meet our current and future needs. And all these costs depend on how much water we use. So this is why I'd like to see an alternative proposal. And I sent off, my estimates of an alternative proposal, and I did this starting 2 months ago, and I've not yet been able to, maybe it's my fault, but I mean, we need a dialogue. If every time I say something, I get rebuffed, and that's what usually happens. I mean, I just feel, I've got to look after my own health as well, and I cannot cope with all these things that are happening that seem to be attacking me for just asking questions. And if you don't understand the questions, why don't you contact me? Why don't you ask me? I've reached out several times saying, if there's any issues, please contact me first. But it never happens. So why doesn't it happen? And so basically I had to put everything in writing. And basically it's what I've seen and what we've seen already is that 9,985 of our water users in 24-25 consumed 46% of the water, and they're going to be paying 73% more than for the same service in financial year 1920, whereas the high water users, the ones really we need to be trying to encourage to use less water in a severe drought, they're only going to get, depending on their pipe size, about a 54% increase. So what I wanted to do is say, all this will come out in the willingness to pay consultation. That's where we have to really make a decision. And I wouldn't be surprised if put in front of all the facts in front of the table, then our consumers will say the same as they did overwhelmingly in Central Coast. And the response there was overwhelming. And it's overwhelming as well on the New South Wales government website that we want charges that encourage conservation. And this is desperately important in a year when we could possibly get to level 3 restrictions. We probably won't, but I mean, we could do, and this is why we need fair charges now. I mean, we're always saying, I've made the same suggestions time and time again over the past few years, and every time nothing's, I get rebuffed. But so I think this is the time now, in the middle of a drought with the lowest rainfall on record for the first 5 months of these years, that we say, yes, Let's encourage conservation. It's a win for our community. 91% of our residents will benefit, and we'll be better set up for our willingness to pay consultation later this year. And so basically, it's going to raise the same revenue, and we now heard that we'll actually get another $670,000 more revenue this year than we expected. So this will mean that our revenue will be higher than we expected this year, and next year we'll have the willingness to pay. This is a temporary measure because we have to introduce the revenue at the right time, which in that right time is on the 1st of July. So this is not going to make any difference to our water fund in any way. It's probably going to increase. We're probably going to be higher than we expect. And at the same time, 92% of our residents will benefit. And we're here to represent residents. And so we should be looking forward to representing the 92% of residents who will benefit, and also looking at setting ourselves up for a dry year and setting ourselves up for a secure water supply in the future. So that was my comments. But I do have a couple more questions later, but I'll see if anybody else wants to ask any questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Robinson. Just before we jump to that, in 8.3 we've got a disallowance of the code of meeting practice we're currently operating under. We'll go back to the old one. The current one, the one that we're operating under, is what came into effect in January 2025, which, and this is for those watching at home, there is no time limit. 26. There is no time limit. So I just say that if people are getting antsy about any of the discussions. Yeah. Councillors, any other questions, comments one wishes to make? Councillor Witters.
Couple of things. Listening to Councillor Robinson's concerns, which are sure there's some validity in those concerns. Maybe over the next year, when we go for a budget within that year, there could be a chance for Councillor Robinson and some staff to work in a key pillar working group on water pricing and better, fairer prices for the 92% she talks about. My question is, and unfortunately, due to some issues, we only got a chance to check out some of the papers this afternoon. I did it being busy at work. Actually didn't get a chance to look at that. I was just looking for a summary of the operational plan and budget, if there was any major changes or any changes from what's come up now compared to what went out on public display, if and any there was any.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not aware that there was many substantial changes, Mr. Witters. No, Councillor Witters.
Is that you, Councillor Witters? Thanks. Councillor Redwood.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just in response to Councillor Robinson's statement, questions, I appreciate what you're saying, and it sounds quite popularist to suggest that 92% of the population or the water ratepayers will be of benefit through your proposed plan. But in the long term, and we need to be responsible in the very long term, in the good times and the bad times. And whilst we have fair weather, your proposal sounds good, but when we have bad weather, it's one where we may get caught short, because without having the necessary funds for our water fund to be able to maintain and improve the network across both Guyra and Armidale, as well as shore up water security for the future, then having a vast majority of reliance on income for water based on consumption, rather than having the surety of having a stable income through connections is, to my mind, fraught with danger.
Look, my response would be that this is temporary. We've got the willingness to pay. I mean, it was being postponed since September 2022, but we've been promised it's going to happen. And in that willingness to pay, I'm hoping we will get a good list of all the improvements. We know, for example, that Gyra needs an ozonation plant. Gyra probably needs other things as well, maybe more pipes replaced than Armidale, and all these things. So we need to have this is not what we haven't seen at the moment, is anything on, the future expenditure, and that should come out of the willingness to pay. The main issue this year is that if we keep on going, and remember, as I said, yes, 92% of residents will benefit this year, and then there's the willingness to pay, and then which will make everything good. But basically, I mean, if one of the submissions that wasn't presented to in our submissions summary was one by Sustainable Living Armidale. And Sustainable Living Armidale talked about the marginal cost. They talked in more detail about the New South Wales Government recommendations. One is that charges should encourage conservation, and the other thing is that and this is one question I did want to ask the staff is, the marginal cost of additional water, because that is one of there are spreadsheets on the New South Wales Government website that show how to calculate it, but they are difficult to follow, because if you think about how much water we're using, which is about 2,400 kilolitres a year, and we say, well, okay, we're going to have a 50% increase in population, then that means that we might increase our water consumption by 50%, which would take it up to 3,600 or 3 kilolitres per year. And so that's how that extra 1,200 kilolitres per year divided by the cost of all our integrated water management schemes, which is something like $500 million. We need to have a look at the cost of this. And I don't know if that's been done, because that's again something that presumably will be done as part of the willingness to pay. And certainly, I mean, I believe that what we should be doing, 30% of all our residents are single-person households, and fairness is a key issue. And nobody's explained to me, and as I made in the point before, why those, a block of 8 single-person households should pay $3,200 a year compared to $400 for the house if, it requires the same infrastructure. And obviously, if the block's the same size, it will require the same infrastructure, and maybe maybe the pipes in town will be easier to maintain because of their location. So that's one thing.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Gadders. There's a few statements here that I think mathematically may be accurate if you're viewing what's said through a particular lens. And I do have a real fear that the community that might be hearing this for the first time would be somewhat confused. The other thing that I have a concern about is that as councillors, we've received briefings from the staff about all of this, about access charges, etc., etc. The way, if the public's watching this, it would indicate that we're cold-hearted, and it's not until this very last minute that the concept of fair, which is a very subjective point, comes to be. I just wouldn't mind throwing to one of the staff, possibly Chief Officer Manners, just a little bit of history as to why our access charges are what they are, and what the timing is likely to be to properly review what those access charges could or should be. Is that a reasonable enough question for you? Sorry, Pete, and we'll come to Councillor Gadders after.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. And that information will have to come in context. So bear with me. I have some notes here that should keep me on track. But note, I can't stress this enough, that to implement charges like this requires consideration of the individual water utility needs and the maturity of the information, systems and processes, as there are options in each of the different documents that are informing our processes. That's called the Regulatory Assurance Framework. It's the documents you were talking about there, Councillor Robinson. And each of them, there are several of them that actually feed into how prices should be determined. This is a complex solution to a complex and evolving issue. And as councillors and for other members of the community as well, the level of detail and operational data will never be available to you to be able to navigate those documents and draw conclusions or recommendation. And to speak to your comments before, Councillor Robinson, the spreadsheets are difficult to navigate because of this. You'll need access to things like operational data like asset registers, strategies, industry trends, operational capability, performance information, and long-term financial plan modelling information and data for our water fund as a bare minimum. This is a very large volume of information. And to speak to the history of how we got to this particular point, keeping that in context. This organisation struggled when the tinderbox drought peaked in 2019, and we started seeing the water security deficit starting to be realised in real time. We immediately started seeking to reduce the volumes that people were consuming, and as our revenue was directly linked to the consumption charges for the community, directly our revenue dropped. We stopped asking people to use water, and so they stopped having to pay for water. We implemented some changes into our water fees and charges, which essentially uplifted those charges immediately as a knee-jerk response to cover a systemic and broken water revenue structure. Over the last couple of years, we've been identifying all the different pieces of information and data that go into strategic price planning. We are nearly at the end of that journey, and right now, what council are doing they are implementing the structure which enables best practice pricing. That is the key decision and what has been on public exhibition today. Incredible step forward. The next piece of information that will be conducted is conducting what we call willingness to pay. Now that's the technical term for what we are considering our levels of service and their perceived value by the community. What that means is the levels of service that you are provided, how often you go into water restrictions, how long sewer chokes go unattended. When we talk about willingness to pay, or the levels of service that our community expect and the value of those as perceived by the community, we compare those to the strategic needs of the community in terms of their water and wastewater supplies. It is very difficult for us to make policy and price changes on the fly, knowing that the information that is going to be coming down the track in the next couple of months will feed into better values moving forward. So I know that's a very long and lengthy response there, but more than happy to circulate some of those comments there and provide further questions if needed.
Thank you. Thanks, Council. I will go to Councillor Gadders because he had his light on before I jumped in, and then Councillor Armidale. Oh, so McMichael.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, item 8.1 is obviously about our integrated planning and reporting and getting the budget right this year, but we seem to be deep diving on one aspect of water. So I'll continue that thread and hopefully we'll dig ourselves back out and get to the budget again at some point in time. I too have done a lot of analysis in this area. I'm not going to bore us all with that at the moment and those watching us, but I do need to put out a few clarification points and perhaps a couple of realities along the way. So I keep hearing this 92% claim. I can get nowhere near it. I can't find it. Okay. The second thing, I'm now hearing this 3,200 claim for the annual cost of an individual living alone. I've looked at my water bills. I've got a very large house with 3 to 4 people in it all the time. And last year our bills came in at 1,600 and a bit. I don't know where the 3,200 comes from. So I would like to also reiterate that we shouldn't be throwing out claims. We should be working things on actual facts. So to move on with that, I guess I've got 2 more areas I'd like to explore. I'd like to explore the, in terms of the proposal that's in front of us, I guess, in terms of what that looks like to the people on the street. So I took the opportunity to look at last year's water bills across our population, and I thought, very simply put, what's an average or a typical household look like for us? It could be a 2-person household. It could either be a young couple, or it could be a 2-person household, senior citizens, or it could be a typical family sort of household. So I then sort of dived down and had a look at those particular areas, and again, basing this on fact, not on running lots and lots of spreadsheets based on averages. So I'll first of all give you my example, my family home. We use in a range of under 80 kilolitres per quarter, right? We're a fairly large home. I've got a teenage son, so trust me, those showers keep running a little bit more often than they should. But ultimately, I've looked at what I paid last year in my bills and what I'm going to pay with the proposed budget numbers from the council, and that equates to $89 increase next year. I'm going to say I'm not really worried about that. It is an increase, but considering, and that includes a water access charge as well as usage, it's all there, $89. Considering where we are in the current financial climate, that's something that I'm prepared to pay as a user. So then let's look a little bit further down the scale. I then went and did exactly the same exercise on my parents' house. My parents are senior citizens living on the pension in town. There's only 2 people in that household. They typically come into the less than 30 kilolitres per quarter range. So they are in the range of the numbers that Councillor Robinson keeps attesting to. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't just check the large family home. I wanted to also make sure that I had a look at what the struggle might be for somebody who was a senior, 2 people in the house and pensioner. And I've been through their bills last year as well. And with the proposed fees and charges on water in the budget, that equates to $60 per annum increase for next year. 60. And again, I did ask my parents. My parents said, I said, would you pay $60 more? And they said, absolutely, we use the water, we should pay for it. So there's some realities, folks. 4 people in the house, $89, 2 people in the house, $60. And I consider us in both cases, based on the data, based on a typical house, those to be very real, typical examples. So we'll move on from there and hopefully get back to the budget at some point in time, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Gadders. Councillor McMichael.
So I'm not sure how many people, other than the councillors and the staff who've written the fabulous documents that we're reading, have read the whole document. Okay, so thanks to the war in Iran, created by a foreign government, all of our building equipment and things and our petrol have gone up by extraordinary amounts. Okay, so the houses that we want to build, the equipment that we're doing in Kempsey, on Kempsey Road, all those prices have gone up. Okay, so not only is the public seeing their petrol stay at $2.18 a litre, which is just terrible, right? And our food prices have gone up thanks to transport, but council's prices in just two areas are astronomically huge, right? This is a great budget because it tells us, it tells the community, it tells everybody what we're spending, okay? Now, I appreciate water, okay? I try and conserve it. I've got buckets under every tap, okay? We're at level 2. We don't spend very much water. Water is one level of this budget. Okay? I really, really appreciate everybody's money situations. Okay? Food is tight, everything's tight. Okay? But we have to look at where we are going. And one of the reasons that GIRA was not fit for the future was because it said, we can't spend $1 million on this, it's too much, we can't do it, and they didn't do it, okay? And they haven't got stuff, and they haven't done stuff, and they didn't build stuff, and neither did we, right? We've merged, and we're looking at the future. We're not looking at now, we're looking at in 10 years, will we have water? Okay, where's our water going to be? And let me tell you, the water costs heaps to build. Okay, we built it in 77 at one place, we built it in 82-ish, don't quote me, it's somewhere else. It was extremely expensive, okay, and we didn't spend the money totally, okay. Other levels of government put the money in, okay, and we are telling them that they need to put the money in, okay, because we can't. Okay, we can't do it ourselves, right? Okay, this is a great budget and we need to look at it, okay, in the whole, okay, and so we need to pass it and look at it and say, okay, and look at what people have said, okay, but we need to appreciate it. We need to look at the submissions. We need to appreciate the budget in the whole.
Yeah, I'm going to jump from a few different points in here. My first one still sticks to the water. Councillor Gaddies, I'd like to comment, we use the water, we should pay for it. If only different schools and different businesses and some greedy people who had unnecessary water carriages in the last drought had the same attitude, we wouldn't have been in as much dire situation. My second point, I think I'll start with some of the submissions that spoke about clean air. I still think it's a big issue within Armidale. I've emailed the staff in regards to looking at other alternatives, using some of the funding that we've got to start some trials, maybe with encouraging people to put different forms of heating in their house, whether it's 15 houses one year, 15 the next, gradually building it up. And while I was thinking about this, we need to start thinking about clean air with the same future focus thinking as what we have with our city centre vitality plan later on. We need to be thinking of the future and how we can make this town better. We can sit here and argue about what's the most efficient or what's cheapest, or you'll never take my fireplace and throw a log on it and tagging people in it and all that sort of silly nonsense. Or we can actually start now as a community thinking of better ways to do it, and as a council whether we can encourage homeowners and especially new homeowners as we go along, and with our 40,000, 50,000 people, encouraging them to put in better, efficient, and more cleaner air heating options. And unfortunately, this winter's a great example. 10 years time, we're probably walking around getting a suntan in the winter anyway, so you won't need your fireplace. So I want to thank those who mentioned that issue. We can keep talking about it, or we can start to look in the future about fixing it up. My other one is, and I'm not, let's be honest, I'm not happy with it, with the money being spent on it, is the 1.5 million towards the rail trail framework idea that we've got that's in the budget. In my opinion, rail trails are like fidget spinners. They were popular in 2016, but no longer for the masses, mainly for the diehards and those that really like them. I think we could have spent that money on something more, that's something we can have more control over. At the moment, we're still in the whims of the state government. I think there are options to bring in more tourists and active tourism and different things where that money could have been well spent. I would love to put in an amendment, but I won't because I know it won't go anywhere. So yes, although the majority of the budget and the revenue policy, long-term financial plan are all good, there's bits and pieces that I think I probably don't support, but as a whole, I think we have to support it based on where we are as a full council.
Thanks, Councillor Witters. Councillor Robinson, I know you've spoken extensively twice.
Yeah, but this is a committee in the whole. There's no limit on talking.
I'm very familiar with that. I'm also the chair.
Mm-hmm.
So I was coming to you just with, is it worth asking Councillor Imad, or are you trying to answer a question, or just add?
Well, if Councillor Imad wants to talk first, and I'll talk afterwards. If you
that's where I was getting. So if I can chair this meeting, that'll be brilliant. So if we can go to Councillor Imad, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to note, following my colleague's comment about petrol prices, they are lower than they were back in April. It is due to the excise removed will be on par. I note that the crisis we are facing, it's not due to the Iran war. That's been ongoing for the past 5 years. Clarified. I'll move on just to talk about the water. For me, the access charge is a bit of a surety for our ageing infrastructure and what we're trying to do with our agenda. Now, I feel for my colleague, Councillor Robinson, it's an admirable thing to deliver for the people, but we are in a conflicted position as being trying to deliver for the people, and at the same time we are doing business and selling them water. With the water usage and relying on rateable charges rather than access charges, the issue is it's fluctuating whether we have a drought. I know the drought the initial response would be a lift in water usage, but as the water diminishes, that will go back down, and we can't operate as mandated by government regulation our water fund in the red, so it has to be in the black, and the access charge will ensure that we have those safety measures to be able to operate and deliver. For one, I'm an advocate to replace and replenish our ageing infrastructure on water. I advocate for GIRA, and I can admit that we are probably heading towards $2 million in expenditure on upgrading those facilities in GIRA since coming to this chamber. There is much more to be done that is already planned, and that will require more money, and plus our commitment to the treatment, ozone treatment in GIRA, which on initial estimate could be in the vicinity of $3, maybe $4 million. So it'll be a bit naive of me to sit there and try and advocate for lower charges while I'm trying to suck as much money as I could to needed places. And while it is great to deliver savings to the people, but at the moment, and it is a bit deceiving to compare ourselves to the Central Coast and Sydney, where water is abundant and there's lots of money, there's a lot of ratepayers. Our LGA, we suffer from lack of population, lack of water, and lack of infrastructure. So we could not compare ourselves to those two entities you gave as an example. So I really see the proposal as kind of the best way forward for what we're trying to achieve for the people. Yes, it's an increase in price. It's not that much, and note, ARC have not increased their prices substantially over the past 5-6 years. So this is still reasonable, and we can work towards the future, fixing our infrastructure. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Robbins.
Yeah, well, just to clarify, since obviously Councillor Yaddis didn't understand my 3,200. In central Armidale, we've got quite a lot of blocks of small units, 1 and 2 bedroom units. And these often, and this is part of our plan to actually encourage them. And these units are actually on small blocks. So you can get at least 8 units on the same land area as a house on the outskirts of town. And as far as I can see, unless anybody explains it otherwise, the amount of pipe work and all the other services required to service those 8 blocks on a small, 8 units on a small block in town, compared with a large house with a garden on the outskirts of town, I would say that roughly the cost to ARC is roughly equal. And yet the one block of 8 units, even if they don't use any, even if they're in the smallest, before they use any water, that charge will be 3,000, 8 times 400, which is $3,200 a year. And these are often the pensioners, the single person households, who really can't afford it. And and my issue is really, the more inequitable we make it, the more dissatisfied our community is, and the more we have to pay for in other services, like homelessness, like extra policing, because of dissatisfaction with the quality of life. So an equitable solution for charges would be far better than basically affecting the single person households. And we've got 30% of our households in Armidale are single person. So this is the ones that have had the 73% increase, whereas the high water users have had much lower increases. I mean, somebody said that we didn't have a large increase, but I think a 73% increase is large since 2019-20. It's only 5 years or 6 years, I'm not. And so I think that basically we do need to look at the equity of our proposals and how much it's costing for ARC to provide it. And as for the guaranteed of income, my issue is always this is going to be temporary. We're talking about hopefully a new charging system discussed, for 2027, 28. And the main reason we're wanting to look at this now is because we're always having the charges set in stone, and that once you set them, and basically quite often you'll find that people like small increments. So if you make a small increment in the right direction, raise the same amount of money and benefit 92% of residents, and I can provide exactly, I've got the consumption data for 2024, 25, so I know exactly how much every single household in Armidale and Gara used, and I can guarantee, based on that consumption, which is going to be the same as next year and the year after, 92% of residents will benefit. And if you don't believe me, I can provide you with every single piece of information. So please don't discredit me saying that I can't do the calculations, because I can. And I think that this is what we do. The New South Wales government has objective data, shows you the entire gamut of households in Armidale and Guyra. And this is what we should be basing our information on, not just 1 or 2 anecdotal examples. So yes, that's basically, I hope that explains most of the things. And I will also say for Councillor Widder's benefit that there is a key pillar it's not a key pillar working group, it's a working group on council, the Healthy Winter Air Working Group, and we are trying exactly to work on this problem. And if Councillor Widders wants to join it, he's only too welcome to do so, because we are trying to make progress, but there's only so much any person can do.
Thank you. Yes.
blocks of unit comparison to? Can someone explain that? Because I believe people would be lost.
I think we probably can, but it's the maths. You know, there's one connection in a house is $300. One connection to per unit would be $300 per unit. But then they've also got those additional kitchens, additional bathrooms. Councillors, we're possibly getting a little lost in the woods about a very, very small part of what is a very big picture. So I'd be really open to anyone that would want to move us out of committee of the whole. If that's a move, Councillor Redwood has seconded, Councillor McMichael. All those in favour of moving out of committee of the whole back into the ordinary council meeting, thank you. That was a great discussion. Excellent. We've cleared a lot of air. So we had got as far as Councillor Redwood moving the budget, Councillor Enders seconding it and thanking the staff. Then we got to Councillor Robinson, moved us into committee of the whole. So now we're back out. Does anyone else have anything to say regarding the budget?
Just once this gets passed or doesn't get passed, if the community just again looks at some of the fees and charges, I know especially just trying to have a quick look, but I'm assuming that fees for the dump or tip, whatever you want to call it, will be in these documents, and it's something they get to run all the time, especially now that we've got the way in and way out and how it's now run. Familiarise yourself with that, especially. Don't just jump on social media and make accusations about different sorts of things. Get a good understanding of how those fees and charges are actually put in place.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood, you moved, but
I did, and I spoke, but I just had a question, and it related to Councillor Witter's comments in the committee of the whole. And he brought up a particular item about the rail trail, expenditure on the rail trail, and I just wondered whether it was possible through the General Manager to get were there some high-level stats that you were able to share at this stage? I know that we did a public consultation about the question about the rail trail. I don't know if that's in the public realm or where that's at, but whether you had anything that you could contextualise just for the support or not for a rail trail.
I have provided you some stuff, in briefing sessions. I'm happy to talk to it if you'd like me to talk to it.
Sure.
Yeah. So we conducted a consultation process. I'll just give you the high level numbers. 1,872 responses. So that's pretty significant for a population of 29 to 30,000. 1,872 is quite a good response. One of the bigger responses that we've had. 84.92% of respondents were in favour of the rail trail. So whatever the different 14.08% were against. The main themes that came out of it were people that were seeing the great tourism benefits for the region more broadly, and the least popular at 0.05% were bushfire risks that were only marginally mentioned. So yeah, and the process from here is that we've with all of those, we've wanted to check, double check, triple check each of those just to make sure that we've recorded them accurately. So as I say, 1,872, 85% in round figures for the rail trail, 15% against. We'll collate all of those submissions into one document, and then they'll be made available for people to be able to pore over as they see fit to just check and double check, triple check, quadruple check our count as well. But they're the stats that exist.
Thanks, Mr. General Manager. Well, I guess that cat is now well and truly out of the bag.
Well, it is, and I'll just get a clarification on that question again. So those responses were to a specific question regarding the rail trail framework.
Councillor Tate, can you just switch that off for a sec?
No, there was no question. I think it was essentially. Can somebody remind me what that question was? There was no question. It was that.
Pretty open.
Yes, so thanks, Dan. Thanks, Chief Officer Boyce. That was essentially just a framework question that said, here's the proposal. Tell us, respond in any way you'd like, whether it's positively, negatively, or any alternatives that you can see. So no specific question.
Just quickly, that 1,800 number that you mentioned, was that just online, or did that include the in-person submissions as well?
Thank you again for your question, Councillor Willis. No, combination thereof. So there was an online submission, there were public, direct public face-to-face consultation, and there was email responses essentially that were provided as well.
Thank you. Councillor Tabor, you were next.
Yeah, just on the comment that Councillor Witters made about the 1.5 million that's been allocated for the rail trail. I have great concerns about that also, and I just don't think we can afford this at the moment. And I think the community is split over this. I've just had so many people commenting about council spending that sort of money. It's a great concern of mine. I mean, I thought we were going to get the funds from external sources, and that doesn't appear to be the case. So you can just maybe answer that for me.
Yeah, sure. No, I think perhaps the confusion is that there's roughly in round figures $2 million worth of expenditure that was required to be able to get council to a point where we could satisfy the rail trail framework and get the tick off from the government, and the next bit was to move forward and actually be able to get shovel ready, a shovel ready project. The actual build of the rail trail, unless council would at some point in the future put its hand in its pocket and elect to construct some of that rail trail, the construction of the rail trail will need to be by external funding, grant funding, external funding, or whatever that might look like, or combination of all of those sorts of things. But like any project, Councillor Tabor, and I'll take you to the Regional Aquatic Centre and one of your great areas of interest, a hydrotherapy pool. At some point, the council has got to dip its hand in its pocket and say, right, we're going to fund the studies, we're going to fund the project master plan, we're going to do the feasibility studies, and we're going to get the project ready up to a shovel ready point, so we can actually then go to the government and say, we need grant funding, here's our project, here's what we want to spend it on, and here's the proof and the work that we've done to be able to substantiate that. I think the history of this council is that we've never been in a position to be able to do that. Historically, we've always had to rely on grant funding to come in to do things like master plans and studies and all of those sorts of things, and therefore we've got the infrastructure and the quality of infrastructure, including our water and sewer, which was a big part of the discussion we've just had, that we've got because we've never really had the money and the funding to be able to pull together business cases, and all of these business cases are largely beauty contests. If you haven't paid and produced a really good set of documents and a good set of plans to get a project to that shovel-ready status, then you're never going to be in a position where you can attract the grant funding, and that's historically been the problem that Armidale Regional Council and its forebearers have suffered, and that's what we've tried to move away from over the last 3 to 5 years in terms of the work that we're doing. So hopefully that in some small way answers your question.
Thank you. Councillors, any other comments before we...
Well, I have a question, which is basically, I believe the EOI, the expressions of interest for OK and for raising Malpas, are going to be submitted, the SEARs are going to be submitted and will appear on the New South Wales Government website. Can you give me a little bit of a date as to when that's going to happen?
Is that related to the budget?
Well, it is, because it's going to be it's future. The budget, we've got $2 million for these not expressions of interest. It's the feasibility studies or environmental impact studies. Sorry, I got the abbreviation wrong. EIS, environmental impact studies.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're doing some consultation initially, and we don't have a specific date. So expect shortly, but that's the best I can do. I'm sorry.
Repeat that. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. We have some communication and engagement to do, and we don't have a specific date yet, but it will be after that consultation and engagement has been undertaken. I don't have a specific date at this point in time.
Councillor Robinson.
No, I did have a couple of amendments drafted. I mean, I would quite like to have them, even though we've had a discussion and it may be that the majority of councillors won't support them, I'd still like to have those amendments in the minutes. So I will move the first of those amendments. And then if I can't get a seconder, it doesn't matter. I mean, the main thing is just to have them in the minutes. So the first amendment was that the intensive horticulture water tariff is suspended subject to a review during the willingness to pay consultations because of the need to encourage conservation during our current level 2 restrictions.
So, councillors, having heard what Councillor Robinson said, is there a mover for her? Sorry, seconder for her amendment. I think that one's died on the floor. Do you have a second?
Oh, cool. Well, can the whole thing be?
No. No. I think the councillors have heard it. The councillors have seen it, and if the councillor wants to second it, then we can get it up on the screen. We can go through it. But no, I think this is lobbying by stealth.
Well, I think you have to do it anyway. Whether you get a second or not, doesn't it mean it's got to be in the minutes?
No, unless you'd like to point me to a place in the Code of Meeting Practice where I'm required to.
Afterwards, but
well,
that would be silly if it wasn't.
That sounds a little retrospective. You said you had a second amendment you'd like to put in? Councillor Robinson, you said you had 2 amendments you'd like to put up, but you put your first one, which didn't seem to get. Yes. So.
The looks of things.
Can you switch that on, please?
One at a time.
Okay, well, you've lost the first one, so let's put the second one up and see if you get a seconder for that. So would you like to discuss it, bearing in mind the councillors have seen it?
Well, the other one was basically circulated as well.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor Robinson's? Sorry, so is that you seconding Councillor Tabor? Okay, Councillor Tabor is seconding it.
Perhaps Councillor Robinson should read it out.
Is that what you want? You can read that out, given you've got a seconder.
Well, I would like to do the first amendment first, or find out if I've got a seconder for it, which was basically.
Councillor Robinson, I have declared you didn't get a seconder for the first one. So Councillor Tabor has seconded your. All right, there's a seconder there for Councillor Robinson's amendment here. So over to you, Councillor Robinson, if you'd like to speak to that a bit further.
Well, the only other additional point from our discussion was basically talking about low-income households, and that the water and the sewage together, the costs at the moment are well in excess of $1,000 a year for low-income households, and that's the reason why I wanted to try and have an alternative tariffs. And I hope if we don't get it now, we will get it later. Thank you.
Councillor Tabor, you're the seconder. Nothing to say to this? No. Okay. Anyone else? Let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Those that are abstaining. I declare that lost. We have Councillors Robinson and Tabor for. We have Councillor McMichael abstaining. and the balance against. Thank you. All right. Councillors, so we're back to our substantive motion, which Councillor Redwood moved, Councillor Enders seconded. Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Gadders.
I will, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, we've obviously, folks, spent a long time on this particular item, so let me keep it brief. This is more for the players at home, and just breaking down some of the highlights of the proposed budget that's in front of us. Look, I see it as yet another strategic budget from ARC. The headlines from a financial point of view is we've got an operating budget of around the 10 million mark, a capital budget of around 62 million, which is excluding the Kempsey Road numbers. And ultimately, the financial position to end the year is to bring in a surplus budget of about 2.8 million and hopefully some unrestricted cash flow of about 6.2. So I think this is a very good budget. What does that actually mean for those of us that want to know what do we get for our money in that way in terms of the ratepayers? So from an operating point of view in the water fund, we're basically collecting $17 million and we're spending 16 million of it. Similarly, on a sewerage point of view, we're collecting 10 million and spending back 9 million. So there's your ratepayers' money hard at work in maintaining those particular infrastructure services. On the capital projects side, 63% of that spend will go towards renewals, while 36% goes towards new projects. So again, it's a balanced budget in terms of focusing on renewing our existing infrastructure and also adding some new projects and growth as we expand out. We can talk to individual items, but I'm only going to highlight one, which is the airport, because that's sitting inside the new projects, that 36%, of which we're looking to budget over $4 million. While the airport's there and you'd think it's a renewal, there's a lot of work, and we'll see in a later item the master plan for the airport. We're heading very much in the right direction, and we need to continue spending on those sort of infrastructure to make things better for the region. So overall, a strategic budget, and the numbers say it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. All right, councillors, Councillor Robinson.
And I just wanted to make a comment in respect to Councillor Gaddis' statement, and that the revenue policy as it stands, where the estimated yield is 15.9 million. It's not 17 million, and it does make a difference. And for the sewer revenue, it's 6.3 million, because it's going to be a big drop from last year because of the way the charges are. So I'm not sure how much we're spending, but certainly the revenue is only 6.8, which is not 9 million.
Well, we can obviously look at the financial statement and look at the income versus the overall summarised operating expense from the general fund or the water fund. So it's where you get your information from.
Yeah, I with you, councillors, we've all asked our questions, we've made our statements. With you, yeah.
Just a question to clarify for the people at home. Our sewer fund and water fund, they have, I don't know, in the vicinity of $25–30 million. Are these funds fully available? There's some of it restricted for committed projects.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Those funds are essentially available for projects within in that fund. So if it's for sewer, it's to maintain sewer infrastructure, and if it's for water, it's to maintain water infrastructure. Well, at the moment, sorry, just ask that question again.
The fund, is that 30 million fully available to be spent, or is some of it already committed to be spent in the forward budget, for example, next year replacing pipes somewhere? So is the 30 million fully available, or some of it is already allocated?
I understand. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the long-term financial plan, some of the money that we've got available now it will be for projects into the future. So I mean, that's just how we manage our cash and ensure we can do those projects. So some of it will be spent in 1 year, some will be spent in a couple of years, and we'll be accumulating cash to ensure that we can do those projects that we have to do, or that infrastructure renewal that we have to do at the time we have to do it.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Redwood, you moved the motion. Is there any need for a right of reply or anything you'd like to say? It's a bit of a leading question of mine. I apologise. All right, councillors, all those in favour of 8.1, those against, those abstaining. So we have Councillor Robinson abstain. I declare that one carried. Thank you. Councillors, item 8.2, the adoption of the Disability Inclusion Plan 2026. I'll try again. I'm not sure what councillors. We will now move to item 8.2, the adoption of the Disability Inclusion Plan 2026 to 2030. The purpose of the report is to present the Disability Inclusion Plan for adoption following a period of public consultation. We have the details from page 17 of the agenda and page 403 of the attachments. Could I have a mover for a motion? Thanks, Councillor Robinson, and a seconder can be Councillor McMichael. Councillor Robinson, what would you like to say?
Well, I certainly read some of the comments, and I think this is an excellent plan, and it's something whereby the council has listened to the comments and the public submissions, and it's a better plan for it. So let's adopt it.
Thank you. Councillor McMichael.
I'd like to agree with my fellow councillor, and pleased to see that a number of the submissions have been incorporated into the current plan. So thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Witters.
Yeah, a few years ago, there was something getting planned through some key pillar working group that advocated that people from the Disability Access Group got their say on it. And then from there, sort of some good ideas come out. And reading some of the submission in this, it gives you a good understanding on the people involved and in and around that committee, how they can give different perspectives on things. I think this plan's a really good idea from the council, and I really want to thank those who actually put in submissions for their contribution.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Okay, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 8.3 is the disallowance of the amended Code of Meeting Practice. So this is a bit of a moving feast. I referred to it a moment ago. The Minister for Local Government required an updated model of Code of Meeting Practice be adopted towards the end of 2025. In May 2026, this new Code of Meeting Practice was disallowed by the Legislative Council. Accordingly, Armidale Regional Council must revert to the previous Code of Meeting Practice. We have details from page 19 of the agenda and 474 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen of the steps we have to go through. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Seconded, Councillor Imad. Councillor Redwood.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I move this one with delight. to move back to a reasonable code of meeting practice after the antiquated measures that were put under by the Minister for Local Government in all his wisdom. Yeah, I was probably the most affected councillor by the fact that I wasn't able to attend meetings remotely. So my exemplary record was ruined, thanks to Ron Honig and his wisdom. So I would, yeah, definitely we need to move back to something that's reasonable, and then of course go through the motions of looking at that code of meeting practice if there's anything we want to change accordingly. But I think that it's a very good move to go back to where we were.
Thank you. Councillor Imat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The new code of model, I think it had some merits, and we could have found a way to navigate through it, except for the Minister refusing to negotiate. And I echo Councillor Redwood's point on attending remotely. So it's great to see us go back to the previous one, and quite uniquely seeing the Greens cooperating with the coalition to get it stopped. So yeah, it's a rare moment in history. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Imat. Councillor Witters.
First thing is time limits. Good to have them back. 5 minutes, I think. If you can't say what you want to say in 5 minutes, you're probably repeating yourself a little bit. Code of meeting practice. Those who have seen my council career know I'm a big fan of it. I think it keeps everyone equal. Doesn't allow for certain councils or certain blocks of councillors, from whether you're an individual or run as a group or whatever, to dominate the meetings. I think everyone gets their fair share of a say, and if followed properly, it allows for an effective council meeting. But they're like stools. If they're not used properly, no point using a saw to try and stir eggs. You use it to cut a tree. And if code of meeting practice isn't used properly the way that it's written, then it's pointless having one. So whether this one, I'm assuming, will be temporary as well to go back, because I'm sure the government will try and rewrite another one in the near future. With a good combination of the old and the new. So while we're under this one, let's try and make sure that we follow it to the letter of how it's written.
Thank you, Councillor Witters. Right, anyone else? Let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Welcome back, time limits. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 8.4, the ARIC Audit Risk and Improvement Committee minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of December 2025. Can't be right. That is right. 2025, details of page 22 of the agenda and 515 of the attachments. The council is being asked to note these minutes, and there is a recommendation to that effect on the screen. Could I have a mover, please, for a motion? Thanks, Councillor Gadders. Second to Councillor Redwood. Councillor Gadders, anything to say on this? No? Councillor Redwood? All right, councillors, let's put it to a vote. All those in favour of noting those minutes? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 8.5, the endorsement of the final airport master plan post public exhibition. It's being laid out there. We have details from page 24 of the agenda and 521 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen there to receive and note the submissions and also to endorse the plan. Can I have a mover, please, for this? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Second to Councillor Imad. Councillor Redwood, anything to say here?
No, this is an exciting move for us to have this plan, and with the hope that it will be endorsed and moved through and acted upon. That piece of road up at the airport, it's our most important road in many respects. It connects us in many ways, and not every person directly uses it, but we may all need it at some stage. It was only last week when I was sitting up at the airport waiting to fly out of Armidale that I watched first one air ambulance land, a jet, and then followed by a twin propeller air ambulance, and then followed by a rescue helicopter, then followed by the freight plane, then followed by Link Airways, and then the Qantas plane that I was getting on. And I thought, it's quite a busy little airport, and it's certainly one that needs the vision and needs the the forward thinking to make sure that we do it properly, and that we as a council responsibly spend the money that's necessary to keep it at the level that it's required to be, to keep us connected with the outside world. So I commend those that have helped to put this together, and certainly throw my support behind it.
Thank you. Councillor Imet, anything to say?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a great initiative, and it's the airport is part of our critical infrastructure for delivery in Armidale. Without it, we can't do anything. People can't go to their specialist or doctors, which fly in and fly out every day. So seeing us put the plans for the next whatever years is a great security for the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Witters.
Some really good points made there by both the councillors who have already spoken. Airport is important for connection. We need to, I suppose, count our lucky stars that we have an airport that is connected to Brisbane, to Sydney. There's towns close to us that don't have that connection. They rely on our connection to those cities and ports to get to doctor's appointments, or get to family events, or take their families away on holidays and all that sort of stuff. So although it's a bit like this council, although it's based in Armidale, it's more of a regional asset that we need to sort of make sure that we continue to look after it, because you never know. Like, I can only go back to when Rex pulled out, the issues that it caused. But we always need to work to make sure that the airport's there, not only for us, but for our region as well.
Thank you. All right, councillors.
Just to support what Councillor Witter said as my right of reply, I think the stats that came through in this airport master plan, right off the top of my head, was it's about 75,000 people that this airport serves across the entire New England region. So you're quite right, Councillor Witters, it's not just Armidale and our immediate region that we call a region, it's that broader region. So very critical infrastructure, and I guess we have that responsibility to make sure that we maintain it well.
Thank you. Councillor McMichael.
Just like to reiterate the importance of the health and to the airport, particularly with the Key Pillar Working Group. We noted the significance of the airport and how vital the flights were to making sure that people got their the surgeons and the people who came to the region for health appointments. And so when planes were late, significant disruptions to health appointments for all the region were. So people came to Armidale from the regions for a number of health appointments. And so when the plane's delayed, the appointments are put off, delayed, changed, and that can make a significant difference for a huge number of appointments and for people who travel from a number of regional centres. So the airport's a huge importance for the region.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. All right, councillors, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of adopting that plan, thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 8.6 is the Legal Services Panel, the tender evaluation. So the purpose of the report is to obtain approval to enter into a panel contract for the provision of legal services with a number of providers there. We have details from page 28 of the agenda. There is a recommendation on the screen that sets out that 4-year appointment term. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Enders. Seconder. Thanks, Councillor Tabor. Councillor Enders, anything to say? Councillor Tabor? Let's put it to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 9.1 is the public exhibition of the loan borrowing policy. So the purpose of the policy is to establish a clear and prudent framework for the use and management of loan borrowings by council. The recommendation on the screen sets out steps to place the draft policy on public exhibition and receive a further report prior to adoption. Can I have a move for a recommendation? Thanks, Councillor Robinson. Second to Councillor Redwood was first. Councillor Robinson.
I'll be very interested to see the submissions. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Redwood. Okay. Anyone else? Let's put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 9.2 is the cash and investment report for May 2026. The key feature of the report is the amount of interest received each month, which becomes sizable given the current cash and investments are at around $147 million. We have details from page 35 of the agenda. Council is being asked to note the report. The recommendation is on the screen. To that effect, can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor McMichael. Second to Councillor Robinson. Councillor McMichael, anything you wish to say there?
No, but it's great to see the interest rates getting higher.
Excellent. Councillor Robinson?
Very interesting. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. If there's no further comments, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. The 9.3 is the making of rates for the 2026-27 rating year. We have details from page 42 of the agenda. We have a list of recommendations there on the screen. A little bit of good news, bad news in there. So can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. Seconded, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Redwood, anything you wish to say?
Well, it's another one of our important items. It's essentially how the council makes its revenues. It's a reasonable process that we've been through here, and so yes, many hours of toiling, but I think we've landed at a place which is reasonable to move forward for the next year. So I'm supporting that.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders.
Just saying thanks to all those that have been involved and got us to this point for yet another year. Thank you all.
Very good. Anyone else? Councillor Robinson.
Oh, just one quick. I noticed that the A-RE, which is the Business Renewable Energy, has a base rate of 10.78 and the Business for Armidale is 10.14. I was just... It's just no. I noticed it. I mean, I'm just commenting on it. I'm not saying anything else about it.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Question for the staff. Just because I'm a man about town and everyone likes to complain about the rates to me, I suppose to the General Manager, can you just give us some sort of comment on where these rates lie in regards to other local government areas of about our size? People will always complain and go, oh, we're getting charged too much, or if I lived in this place, the rates aren't that high, or my parents live here and they're only paying this amount of dollars and all that sort of stuff. In comparison to, say, a local government area that's about the same size as us, where would our rates sit? Would we be high, comparative? Would we be low? For those people that like to ask that question a lot, what sort of answer would you have for that?
Thanks, Councillor. I'd probably have to come back to you with a more definitive answer, but I'd say we'd be probably middle of the road, maybe sort of 35–40%. We're certainly not the most expensive, and we're certainly not the cheapest. I think one thing that I would say though is that it'd be interesting to know who the people are that might be saying this to you, because you'll often hear people from Sydney that will make that comment, "Oh, your rates are so high," but what they forget is that our rates include not only our general fund, our waste, and a number of, but our water and sewer as well. So as a bulk figure, it looks quite large. If they were to gather up all of their Sydney notices, including their rate notices, their waste notices, which might come from a different organisation, plus their Sydney Waters accounts, that would be a better measure of, of how relative it might be to perhaps what city folk or our city cousins are paying. But I could come back with a more definitive answer around that if you'd like. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Imad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question. The yield from the 3.2% increase in rates, opposite to that, our workforce, how much do we spend on an yearly increase? So what would the increase this year on our workforce be?
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. 3.2%, as you mentioned, is the general rate permissible increase through IPART. In terms of that's on the revenue side, and we have very few revenue streams, as you know. On the expenses side, 4.4 or 4.5% in salaries and wages this coming financial year, 4% the next 2 years. Our insurances are going up by about 15%. Our electricity bills and our utilities bills are going up by about sort of 8 to 10%. And then there's a significant flow through in just other general contracts, materials and contract price increases as well. So we're probably having a revenue base that's increasing by 3.2% and an expenditure base that's probably increasing overall by about probably 18 to 22% over the next financial year and then coming years.
Thank you. Right, councillors, if there's nothing further, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of making the rates? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 10.1, the Armidale City Centre Vitality Plan. So the purpose of this report is to seek council endorsement of said vitality plan for public exhibition. We have details from page 52 of the agenda and from page 615 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen. From the chair, I don't normally do this, but I really encourage the community to have a look at it. It is fun. There's a lot of colour in there. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there. Have a look at what is possible, would be my suggestion, and give us some feedback. So can I move? Councillor Witters move, Councillor Redwood second. Councillor Witters.
In my time of sitting in this chamber, I've read a lot of reports. Some of them boring. This one is probably top two I've read. The potential to come out of this for this town is amazing. I sat there reading this and thinking, if all of this come to fruition, the difference that it would make in this town would be just amazing. I've got to tip my hat to the staff who put it together, and the ideas and everything else like that, and really encourage the community to get behind this. And a good example of making the town look better and in the now, not in the past, is the little bit of work we've done behind the pool. The difference it made just in that area for the town. And I think if we can get not only council, but the community, developers, anyone else that really, this is basically giving you permission to get out there and have a go. Yeah, and I'm just excited from the potential of what this plan can really do for this town. And yeah, just want to again give my thanks to the staff for putting it together.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And yes, like my colleague, Councillor Witters, I'm impressed by the plan. There are many aspects that are impressive about it. One of them is that it's not like someone went out and created a brand new plan. What this is the culmination of plans over many decades that this council has put together, and almost none of them have ever landed. This one here brings them together, pulls the best parts out of all of them and puts it together in a comprehensive and cohesive plan that will be able to be fulfilled. And as Councillor Witt mentioned, as we move forward and opportunities arise, if we use this as a bit of a North Star of where Armidale wants to be, and refer back to it, and looking at the different corridors in the CBD that have been identified as different precincts, and ensuring that we follow that master plan as it's as it's intended, we will be much better off for it rather than a piecemeal planning methodology that has occurred, particularly some of the terrible destruction that we saw of beautiful heritage buildings in the 60s and 70s to create eyesores that we still live with today. So I would like, through Chief Officer Boyce, to congratulate our strategic and extremely passionate planner, Jesse Dick, on the work that he's pulled together with various experts and his own expertise to present this to us, and I fully commend the work.
Good. Councillor McMichael.
Yes, look, I would like to echo my fellow councillors' ideas, suggestions. So this is a plan, and I would like people to look at it and read it and add their suggestions to it. Just a couple of things that we have already done. The laneways look amazing. They just make the town look pretty. Just walking around it, it's like, oh, that's lovely. It's just terrific. The Albert Park and it's lovely, and they're two small places which have had thought of them, and if we can look at this as a whole precinct idea and think about it rather than just go, oh yeah, let's move the library and go and plonk it somewhere because we've got some bit of land and it wasn't thought of, it wasn't done, and great, we've got a new library, but it wasn't thought about. This is an idea, this is planned, and it's great. Give us your suggestions, and yes, congratulations to Jesse and his team. It's a fabulous idea. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor McMichael. Right.
Can I use my right of reply if there's no other thing?
I think with my Councillor Robinson, who made a comment very first up. Oh, sorry, no, you didn't. That was in making the rates. My apologies.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a very, very comprehensive plan, and I certainly can support Councillor McMichael's thoughts that the laneways, which is a very low cost but very effective way of improving the streetscape. But I did wonder, and I could possibly try an amendment just to say that because it's such a comprehensive plan, whether we could actually put it on public exhibition for a little bit more than 28 days to give the public time to respond. I mean, I would certainly like to see it for 42 days or even 60 days, just to give everybody, because everybody's probably fed up with all the having to put in submissions, and giving people a bit more time to read it and a bit more time to digest it and consider it would be really good. Is that possible?
Well, I guess we could go to Councillor Witters and see if he's happy to extend the 28 to 42, and then Councillor Redwood, and that can become the motion.
42 would be the limit.
Yeah. It does say a minimum of 28. It doesn't say a maximum of 28. So, I mean, there's flexibility there. I mean, I appreciate what Councillor Robinson's suggesting here, but at the same time, it's so exciting. I think people will just rush in to respond to it and put their submissions in. But yeah, I don't think there's a hard stop, is there?
So it's Councillor Witters' motion. So do you want to update? Is there any tweak you'd like to make to C there?
How about we just put in, to go with Councillor Robinson's point, for a minimum period of 28 days and a maximum of 42.
Councillor Redwood, are you happy with that if that became the motion?
Well, or up to 42. Like, I'm happy for an extra 2 weeks.
Excuse me, just Councillor McMichael, can you turn that off, and I will come to you. So
you get rid of a minimum period of 28 days and change it to for a period of up to 42. So that should limit it to 42 days with that wording.
Thank you. We'll take it on good faith. We're not going to pull the rug. Councillor Witters, could you just turn that off? So, Councillor.
Could I just ask a question of Chief Officer Boyce, which I think has been alluded to? Will that have any impact on what we're doing? Is there any particular timing attached to 28 days or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thanks for the question, Councillor. No, 28 days is a standard period of public exhibition. We always specify it as a minimum period because, you know, based on consultation with the staff, we may wish to extend it. We've done that with a planning proposal. I think recently we extended to 42 days. So we're happy to be guided by council.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. That is now our motion. A right of reply there?
Yeah, just wanted to use it for the library. Point that Councillor McMichael made. When I read this, to see the library put back close to town was probably the most excited I've got for it. As someone that regularly used the library when my older kids were little. Although I like the space where it is now, I think bringing it closer to town then brings more people into town, which then increases the secondary people on why they come to the library. They can do everything, and to put it next door, even better. So, and I met, there was planned maybe 12, 15, 16 years ago about a library precinct around here that had a bit of merit about it, and then it brings that back to the table. So that's good.
Thank you. All right, councillors, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 10.2 is the finalisation of planning proposal number 28. The purpose of the report is to advise council of any submissions received during the public exhibition period for planning proposal number 28 and seek council's endorsement to finalise the proposal. We have details from page 60 of the agenda and 723 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen. Could I have a mover for a motion, please? Thanks, Councillor Redwood. A seconder. Thanks, Councillor Gathers. Councillor Redwood, anything there you wish to say?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think it's it's important that we get our head around how this worker accommodation is going to operate within within the region and in the context of the New England Renewable Energy Zone. And so you're getting ahead of that by having our position here is important. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gadders. Any other councillors wish to speak to this? All right, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 11.1 is the public exhibition of the gates and stock grids policy and procedure. So the purpose of the report is to seek council's endorsement to publicly exhibit the revised policy on gates and stock grids on public roads and the associated new procedure. So the gates and stock grids on public roads is the procedure. So following the completion of the policy's scheduled 2-year review. So council is being asked to endorse the revised policy and draft procedures for public exhibition and then take steps to ultimately adopt these documents. We have details from page 72 of the agenda and page 801 of the attachments. There is a recommendation on the screen. Can I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Tabor. Seconded, Councillor Endres. Councillor Tabor, anything to say here?
Look, I suppose growing up in rural areas, the sooner we can get rid of these, the better. There's been so many accidents over the years that there's no way we're going to solve it unless we get rid of them. So well done.
Thank you. Councillor Endres. Right. Anyone else wish to say anything to this? Councillor Witters?
Yes, and for those who are around long enough to remember this before, I do have nightmares in regards to how many times this was kicked down the road. I really, the poor old can, I think, turned into dust. It got kicked that many times. So I really hope this time it goes through a little bit more smoother than last time when it comes back from public exhibition.
Thank you. All right, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 11.1 is a landfill compactor procurement. So the purpose of the report is to seek Council's endorsement to procure a landfill compactor for use out of the landfill operations. So following a competitive request for tender process, we have details of this laid out from page 75 of the agenda. There is a recommendation on the screen very specific to the sort of compactor one we are seeking to acquire or being asked to endorse. So the mover, thanks Councillor McMichael, is seconded Councillor Robinson. Councillor McMichael, what would you like to say to this?
Oh, I understand that we've been renting one and it'll be great to have our own and that'll save our costs. It'll be terrific.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yes, I think it will be a good addition to our landfill and our operation and possibly save us some money in the long run.
Thank you. All right, councillors, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour of endorsing that acquisition? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 11.3 is the ARC or Armidale Regional Council decarbonisation pathway. So this sets out a set of opportunities to reduce the carbon emissions across Armidale Regional Council's portfolio. The opportunities primarily cover demand reduction, new technologies and fuel switching. We have details from page 78 of the agenda and 828 of the attachments. There is a very extensive recommendation on the screen there. Could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Gadders. In a second, it can be Councillor Widders. Councillor Gadders, anything you wish to say there?
I think, Mr Mayor, you're very right with the words extensive recommendation, but also extensive analysis and work to get to this point in time. So thank you very much, Chief Officer there, and to the team as well. I guess for myself, I remember when we were originally targeting this at 2030, and those with clearer heads have done the analysis and realised that we do need to push back to 2040 and 2050. But I think the near-term path that this particular pathway sets out is very good for us, and we've got a lot of work to get done in the next 12 months along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gadders. Councillor Widders.
I'm really pushing my memory of council meetings here, but I think I may have seconded the original 030 motion back in about 2018-19. Might have been Councillor Robinson or former Councillor O'Brien who may have moved a motion in regards to this. As long as we're still heading in the same direction and looking at what that original motion, I suppose the intent of that original motion, as long as we're still heading in the same direction, I think this is a great idea. So yeah, good.
Thank you. Councillor Redwood, you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I guess almost in response to Councillor Witter's comment question, I mean this is about Armidale Regional Council's decarbonisation pathway as a specific entity. If we have a look at what Project 030, which I've been involved in for the last few years, was attempted to achieve, which was a net zero for our LGA, not our business, not the business of council, but for the LGA, in combination with the university, as well as some various other entities. The reality behind Project 030 is that once we had the baseline studies come back from the research that was done through the university, we found that we knew where our baseline was for greenhouse gas emissions across the LGA. We knew that 70% of them came from agriculture, and that to be able to go 030 for the LGA would mean a couple of things, but one of the options was to plant 6 million trees at a cost of more than $10 per tree. This was seen to be unachievable in many respects, because it's not a matter of just going buying offsets, because that's just carbon neutrality. We're talking about net zero net zero for the entire LGA. So what this proposal we have before us, I guess it takes into consideration some of our commitment to Project 030, but it hones it in back onto Armidale Regional Council and what we can control ourselves as a council, as opposed to what is controlled across the entire LGA. So I guess to your, to answer your question, it is a contributor to what would become a Project 030, 040, whatever that becomes for Armidale LGA, but it's certainly not going to achieve that outcome. But it will achieve what we can do, what we can control as a council. Does that help?
Thank you. Councillor Tabor.
Yeah, look, this is a great initiative and been very supportive of it. And being in the solar industry for 30 years, I've seen how all this has evolved, and there's been a lot of mistakes made. And I think we have to be very careful we don't make some of those. And particularly around battery storage, I think you need to give this a lot of thought. Solar panels are bulletproof, and that's always the best bite of the cherry. So I'm suggesting that you really concentrate on that as much as you can, and also to create our own LGCs. I think that's a great thing we can do. Takes control of it, and I think that's a great initiative. And that's obviously only come in on 100 kilowatts plus. So I suppose the question is, do we have enough of those projects that are 100 kilowatts plus to be able to make this work properly?
Thank you, Councillor Tabor. Councillor Imad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to be the crow here. Is there a cost on this overall achievement of net zero? And I see net zero as this the pursuit of net zero has driven the cost of living crisis through the roof, and it's affecting all of the country, whether through the manufacturing industry or the cost of living right across the board. So I do not support anything with any pursuit of net zero. I'd like to see that achieved by non-compulsory initiatives. But is there any cost over the period of 2040? What would the cost be to council?
Through me to you.
That is in the decarbonisation pathway, the cost over time. I think it's around 5 million. That's energy net zero over time. So if you were to do that tomorrow, and that was purchase all vehicles and and then what you can't electrify, for example, then you choose to offset. In Councillor Redwood's terms, that would cost you about $20 million, which is not feasible. Well, put that to the council that it's not feasible to be able to do that. So, but over time, we can achieve a step towards net zero at a more manageable cost.
Thank you. Are we obliged to pursue net zero?
As far as I'm aware, there's no government mandate to be able to pursue net zero. However, we do have to start being transparent with our reporting as of next year. So that means that should we be successful in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, or otherwise, it doesn't really matter. But as long as we're demonstrating to the community what it is that we're doing, that's the requirement of the reporting so far. The federal government have an ambition and a target of energy net zero by 2050, and this decarbonisation pathway tries to fall in with that.
Councillor McMichael.
So the world has had significant environmental issues over the past 60 years. It has faced some of them and said, we can do various things to combat them. We had.
Can we try and just bring this?
Yes, we can. So we can do them globally. We can do them individually. We can ban things. We can. So when we, as a council, say we're going to go net 30, we are trying, as a group, as a region, to make our environment better. More people die of heat stroke. More people die of heat stroke than other diseases, okay, across the world, right? Okay, we're trying to make our world cooler. That's one of the things we can do, okay? We're trying to make this region better, and some of the ways we make it better, okay, are to make our air better, okay, to make our region better, and these are some of the ways we're doing it, okay? So we, as a council, as a region, okay, are trying to make this place that people live, that we love, okay, better, okay? And if we can help through solar, through batteries, okay, through how is our climate changing, getting hotter, colder, whatever, okay, then let's help this part of the world, this part of Australia. Okay, let's do it.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out item F of the agenda, which is talking about an average payback period of 7.37 years, which is a very, very good investment. It means it will save us money over 7 years, and after that we will get free electricity. And I think anything that reduces our running costs and helps keep our rates low and effective for our residents is a wonderful idea. And if you think about it, 7.37 is about 14% interest a year. So it's better than any other way we could have of investing our money. And I would like to say that, you know, the Healthy Winter Air Group is also looking at other opportunities to make use of New South Wales government grants for energy efficient appliances. And that's a win-win. It saves our residents money, it benefits the climate, and we get a happier, healthier community as well. So let us look at other opportunities, because there may be other opportunities as far as methane and carbon monoxide emissions are concerned. This is a very complicated technical area, but it is very important that we actually look at the whole picture, and that includes looking at our emissions over all our emissions, and from residents and council emissions, where we can do benefit by encouraging and helping residents save money as well.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. Okay, councillors, let's put this to a vote. All those in favour? Those against? I declare that carried 8-1. Item 12.1 is the Kempsey Road status report. So this is a regular report providing updates on the Kempsey to Armidale Road restoration project. Council is being asked to note the information contained within it. We have details from page 85 of the agenda, and there's some info as well in the closed attachments. Can I have a mover for the motion that we note this report? Thank you. Moved Councillor Redwood, seconded Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Redwood, anything to say there?
Oh, only that, yeah, it's good to see the transparency of this reporting. As I think you all know, I'm the councillor delegate on the steering committee for the Kempsey Road, so I'm your eyes and ears on the ground there. But
attaboy.
The project's sort of reaching a very critical point now, where the decision for the tender, awarding the tender, is being made. So, yeah, watch this space.
Thank you, Councillor Redwood. Councillor Ahmed? All right, councillors, all those in favour of noting reports and attachments? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. Item 14.1 is the Local Transport Forum, the minutes of their meeting held on the 26th of May 2026. There is a recommendation that council endorse a road closure for NIDOC week and a speed reduction limit out at Hillgrove. We have details on page 89 of the agenda and 871 of the attachments. Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor McMichael, and a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Witters. Councillor McMichael, anything to say there? Thank you very much. Councillor Witters.
Yeah, speaking of the march, I mean, be good to see a few extra councillors come along to that march and the activities on the Friday, and there's also some activities on the Sunday beforehand, I think on the 5th, starting at the Culture Centre from, yep, so there should also be a calendar out, so yeah, come along. And the NAIDOC March, street march is for everyone, it's not just for the Aboriginal community, so if anyone wants to come along and join in on that march, feel free.
Thanks, Councillor Witters. All right, councillors, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. I declare that one carried unanimously. Item 14.2 is the minutes of the Liverpool Region Key Pillar Working Group, and council is being asked to note those, but they're put up there. So they're noted. Could I have a mover? I understand that Councillor Redwood is the chair. Councillor Imat is also on that committee. Councillor Redwood, anything you wish to summarise or discuss?
Just a quick, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick update. Yeah, look, a number of items being discussed in that group. One of them is about the potential for the Malpass Aquatic Precinct to become more than what it is at the moment. Some discussions that we've had with UNE Life about how to collaborate as well on matters of sporting and recreation. Of course, the Vitality Plan that was presented to us today for public exhibition was another part of the Key Pillar Working Group exercise, and also looking at some various different sites and suitability for housing. And finally, the comment about introducing or encouraging more Uber or other forms of public transport around the LGA was on there, and so I've had contact with Uber, and some of you may have noticed that there are some Ubers popping up here and there around, particularly in Armidale, on demand. But yeah, it's one of those market forces things. So I think that's about all I need to. Oh, and one thing which was we're also discussing was the potential to put a community piano somewhere in Armidale as a test, just as a pilot. I know that in my travels around the world, I see community pianos in various different places. They're in safe places, but they're just free pianos for people to play. And every single time I go past one, they're being played by someone, whether it be a 6-year-old or a 90-year-old. And they draw a crowd. They provide music in a public space, and they seem to be very successful at creating an atmosphere that is positive. So we're going to trial a community piano at a location to be revealed.
Terrific. Thank you. Councillor Imat, anything to say?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I was going to mention the piano until the good Armidale folks to look out for the pink piano. Maybe the Pink Panther, yeah.
Very good. All right, councillors, let's put that to a vote. All those in favour of noting those minutes and the exciting developments contained within, thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. All right, final item for the day is the questions for which notice have been given. It's in 5.1. It's multiple questions for which notice has been given by Councillor Robinson. Councillors are being asked to note those responses. Can I have a mover, Councillor Robinson, and then a seconder, and then what? Councillor McMichael, Councillor Robinson wish to.
Thank you for the information. I do believe it's important, and I really stress that we need informed communities and informed people to make informed decisions. And I hope these questions in the long run will add to the information and help have informed residents and an informed community. And if there are ever any questions that don't obviously mean aren't obviously easy to understand, then please, let's have a dialogue so that we can sort out, so that we get the right answers and make sure that everything makes sense so that we can do the best we can for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Robinson. All right, councillors, let's put this to the vote. All those in favour of noting those responses? Thank you. I declare that carried unanimously. And that, councillors, draws this meeting to a close at 6:11 p.m. Thank you all.